And so, it continues. Hello there, welcome back to the Writing Advice Q&A. I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I'm preparing to transform into my Sentai form, but welcome. Hello there. Today, I'm going to be answering a bit of not a strange question at all. It's one of those things that I've internalized personally, but I don't think I've ever had the chance to talk about. Backstory versus info dump. What is the most effective way to do things from my point of view? Well, I'm going to tell you all about that and a little more. But before I go on anywhere, I'm going to tell you, as always, that the following is merely just my advice, my opinion, and what works for me. Don't take it as gospel, instead take it as the ramblings of a silly person who looks a little bit like this. I've been playing Sun and Moon, and there's no Trubbish in Sun and Moon, so I'm so sad. I love Trubbish so much. My favorite. For more Pokemon ramblings, feel free to follow me on Twitter at Mr. Kirin. But let's push that aside. Today's question goes a little bit, or rather precisely like this. Hey Max, I've been having a hard time figuring out how I should incorporate an important part of a character's backstory. Whenever I try to have the character describe that event to another character, it tends to come out like an info dump. I was wondering if you know of any ways to avoid this. Thank you. Now, for those of you out there who may not be familiar with the term info dump, it is usually referring to a block of text that is dumped into a story for the sake of providing information to the reader, and particularly in a way that feels very ineffective, or it feels as though we're just telling the reader things they need to know. This is a thing that generally happens a lot with backstories or explaining magic systems. Magic systems tend to be really guilty of stuff like this, to the extent that it doesn't really feel like a story, but it feels more like reading the spell section of your pen and paper role-playing game. Now, how can we skip on the info dump while still providing the information that we need to the reader? Now, I'm a bit of a radical when it comes to this, and I'm always open to listen to what you have to say. Let's have a conversation. I personally feel that when it comes to backstories, less is more. And like, hold on to that, because I have a couple points that we're gonna walk through. But I don't really feel that telling a character's backstory in its entirety with full accuracy is always the best course of action, mostly because, point number one, people don't talk like that. If a character is talking about a thing that happened to them in the past that's part of their backstory, they're not gonna go into full detail. They're not gonna explain everything in a way that is 100% truly objective and true, because, I mean, think about it. When someone asks you to talk about that one time when that thing happened to you, do you describe everything? Do you tell them everything that happened in an objective and completely true way? You don't embellish the past at all? This is particularly the reason for me. When stuff like this happens in dialogue, I prefer to be as brief as possible. And I assume, because again, you have to get into the characters' heads, how would this character tell their backstory or this thing that happened to them? Would they just break out into lots of detail and flowery description? The answer is probably no, because people don't talk like that. So, I understand why you, dear writerly friend sending this question, feels as though, yeah, whenever I try to talk about the backstory, it just feels like an info dump. And I feel like there are a couple of ways to walk around that line, or just full out skip on it. I think that an effective way to show us that event, if it really is that important, if you're writing a story with multiple points of view, preferably in past tense, I think you can honestly take a moment to have a chapter where we learn about the events that happened here. I think that's entirely fine. Some people would argue that it's not as it's still not very effective, but do we want every scene to be super effective? I'm such a goddamn nerd. Silliness out of the way. What I particularly feel when it comes to situations like this is that you have to stop and ask yourself, how much of this is important? And what would be the best way for me to let the reader know about this? Because I feel, let's say an example, just pulling one out of the back of my head, the main character's friend happens to have gone to school or knows the antagonist from their past. Would this side character explain in great lengths, or would they just say, yeah, we went to high school together, it wasn't good? I think, honestly, little bits like that, because, going back to my first point, describing it in full detail with everything being 100% objectively true on how it actually happens, I think that's actually a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not as effective because it takes away the reader's ability to wonder what could have been, what might have happened. So far, I've let you know my particular point of view regarding that. I don't think that just saying it in dialogue is very effective, because people don't talk like that. Additionally, I believe that less is generally always more. I don't think you have to tell a reader everything about the backstory. I think you can actually just sprinkle it here and there, in bits of dialogue, or things that people say in passing, you know? Yeah, I've been to that city before, or like, yeah, I know who that person is, and little things here and there, especially if you want to do it through dialogue. If it is a situation in which, because somebody's gonna ask, Max, but what if it's my character's backstory, and the story is told from their point of view? Can't I have a moment where, you know, I talk about it? And I think that works for that. But what you have to be keen on is finding the right time to bring it up. And I'm gonna say this right now, and it's really mean, and it's really harsh, don't put it in the first chapter. I get a lot of writing, and I get a lot of people asking me about, you know, how do I feel about having the character's backstory described in the very first chapter or the opening sequence, and honestly, you don't have to. You don't have to fill the reader with information, because let me tell you something right now. They won't remember. The very first thing the reader picks up, they won't remember. Find the time where it feels right, where it makes sense. And if you write the whole story and you find that you never had the chance to add it, revision is there for you. Don't freak out. Take it easy, you have plenty of time, and honestly, real talk, during revision I think you will find the truth whether, if you missed it, does it really need to go in, and if it has to go in, well, you have the whole canvas for you to decide where to go. Once again, it appears that revision has come again to save us from our own worries and fears, but I've gone on way too long. I want to know what you think about this particular situation. You know, like, did I miss a particular point of view or particular, you know, take on this question? What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. How do you feel about info dumps? How do you portray this information to the reader? I think this is a great chance for a conversation, so let me know what you think, as well as your questions for future videos. I make it a point to reply to every question that I get, and I add them to a pile of questions for future videos. And with that being said, let's dive right into the outro. I want to thank you for watching. If you're interested in helping me continue to make videos like this one, consider pledging to my Patreon page, and also check out the videos and playlist on the side here. And if you haven't already subscribed, please make sure to do so. That way you won't miss any single one of the videos that I make. But again, thank you for watching. Thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me, and I'll see you on the next one.